Hello and welcome to the third rail. In the last episode we saw that one of my locomotives performed rather poorly in an incline test I was doing in preparation for my next temporary layout. As some viewers have requested it, I thought we'd use the opportunity and see if we can fix that. So first of all we need a bit of a benchmark. So I've prepared a consist with 6 passenger carriages or cars and a similar locomotive, and we're going to just put it up to speed setting 150 and see how it performs on the incline. Cool. So it's slowing down, but that's normal, and that's the type of performance we'll be looking to achieve after maintenance on the other locomotive. So let's get the tools out. We've got a Märklin toolset, the basic one, some cotton buds, a bit of Märklin oil, the 7149 if I'm not mistaken, yes, a syringe, a bit of penetrating fluid, some isopropyl alcohol, and a pair of tweezers. Now I'm on a surface that's soft so that I'm not going to damage my model. You might want to think about that if you're doing some maintenance on yours. A block of styrofoam, for example, would do. We'll start with a quick visual inspection. What we're interested in this case is the state of the undercarriage and the bogies. So let's have a look. It's a well-used model, as you can see from the discoloration of some of the wheels, and rather yellowish aspect of the underside of the motor housing. But everything's there, so we're going to have to look inside and unscrew the body. On those locomotives, either diesel and electric, it's always the same. One screw attaches the body to the chassis. I'll just tip the locomotive to release the screw I've just loosened. Put it to the side not to lose it, and then we can lift the body of the chassis. Come on. I'm pulling the chassis instead of the body. There we go. So the pantograph are nice and straight. We'll check if the screws holding the pantographs are not loose, because that's a classic. No, they're fine. And the conducting strip is also there. So that's all fine. We're going to remove the fake interior plastic thing. And that reveals the reverser and the motor. And there we're checking to see if nothing's come loose. No, everything's fine. Yes, that's how it should be. Can't see any obvious problems from that side, but based on the performance, the problem is more likely to be on the motor block. So let's release the motor block now. To do this we need to remove the cover for the bogie, which is held to the motor block with a screw. So we just need to unscrew it, and then pulling it will also release the cover. There we go. I can have a quick look and see if there's nothing obvious at the same time. No, fine. The tires are all there. Yeah, so fine. So the next thing we need to do is remove the bulb. So just turn it and pull it out, put it to the side, and then you need to remove the contacts for the positive of the bulb by simply pulling them out of their slots. So now we can drop the motor housing. Now the motor housing is held to the chassis with 2 latches or 2 notches which are inserted into sliders which are part of the chassis. To remove the motor, you need to wiggle the motor to one side so that one of the latches becomes free, like this. Once you've done that, you turn the block to the other side and you will release the latch on the other side of the motor block. This way you can drop the motor housing through its hole and then start with dismantling the motor. So you need to pull the brush springs out of their position in order to release and remove the brushes, which we're doing now. Then you've got two screws in diagonal holding the motor plate. You need to loosen those and then pull the screws out, put them aside, and then you're ready to remove the winding and the motor plate. I'm going to try and remove the motor plate first. It might not work. It's a bit sticky. No, I think we're simply going to remove everything at once. Yeah, let's just take everything, the winding and the motor plate at once. There we go. So, one thing to check is that the wires coming from the winding and attached to one of the brush contacts are not broken. So now they're fine here. And now we can have a look at the armature, or the rotor, depending on where you are in the world. When the camera focuses, we'll be able to have a quick look at it. Come on, focus. There we go. Yeah, just dirty, but nothing major. Let's have a look at the motor housing now. So the gears are all there and moving. We're going to wiggle each axle to check how free they are. They should be simply moving from side to side with no resistance. Here you can see that one of them is moving very, very slowly. So we have a slight hardened oil problem here. I could add some oil, but that would be a bit, it's just not going to do much for a very long time. So we're going to use some penetrating fluid to free up the axle and try and remove some of the oil. And we apply it to each side of each axle, just in proximity to the bearing. Sorry, it's outside of the screen. I was concentrating on the thing, on what I was doing. Then you wiggle the axles from side to side in order to distribute the penetrating fluid. And then you can use your rubber surface to try and help the process and move your block from side to side. That will distribute the fluid. And now you can see that the wheels are completely free. They even have enough inertia to carry on turning after I've pushed them. So I think we fixed one of the problems. We'll then clean the inside of the motor housing, and we'll also take care of cleaning the surface of the gears and take any surplus of oil that has accumulated there. Just a cotton bud with a bit of isopropyl alcohol will help do that. We'll check the gears as well to make sure that nothing's stuck between them, because that could prevent the good running of the motor. No, there's nothing, and there's no teeth broken or anything. So now we can have a look at the motor plate. And of course I've done the classic, which is that one of the cables from the reverser to one of the sides of the windings of the coil has come loose, but we'll take care of that a bit later. looking at the inside of the motor cover, it's absolutely filthy. It's black, full of graphite residues. So we're going to take a fresh cotton bud and remove as much of the graphite as we can without anything. No need to waste some alcohol at that stage. Nothing will, that wouldn't bring anything. So once we've removed as much as we can then take a bit of alcohol and a cotton bud and then do the final cleaning. And as you can see now, the inside of the cover is the same color as the outside nearly. Perfect. So I'm going to resolder the cable to the winding of camera. There we go, I'm done. Yeah, solder joint is okay-ish. I can't solder very well, so if it holds, that's fine. Let's take care of the armature now. It's just a matter of cleaning the rotor, the collector, sorry, with a bit of alcohol. There we go. And then we can turn the armature around and have a look at the teeth and make sure that nothing's stuck between them, and also give them a quick wipe with the cotton bud. Okay, all done. Once we've done with that cleaning, we can apply a bit of grease to each end of the armature shaft. That will prevent some scratching or screechy noises during operation. If you don't have grease, if you drop a drop of oil, of Märklin oil on each side, will do as well. So now we're ready for reassembly. So we'll put the rotor back in the motor housing. Just give it a spin to make sure it's free. Yep, all fine. And now we're ready for the final reassembly. So we just need to proceed backwards from the steps of the disassembly. Just need to pull the cable and the winding through the chassis hole in order to be able to fit the motor block the right way in the end. Once we're done and we've put everything back in place, it's just a matter of sliding the motor housing through the opening in the chassis, tip it on one side so that you can insert the holder or the slider in the chassis into the notch on the motor housing, and then turn the motor housing in the other way to insert it in the slider into the other side of the motor housing. And then putting the bulb back, I find it easier to simply put it in, turn the bulb with a pair of tweezers so that it doesn't move, and then reattach the contacts, which you simply need to slide back in their slots. There we go. And then you can simply pull the back of the contact so that it goes over the bulb. And we are all done. Now we need to reattach. We can check the final check that the traction tire are not loose on the wheels, because that could mean wheel slip, and we don't need that. It's all fine, and I'll keep those traction tires. I won't change them this time, but that would be the point where you change your traction tires. We can reattach the cover of the bogie. There we go. It's a matter of finding the thread. We found it. Screwing it back in. All done. So now I just need to grab some oil so that we can do a bit of lubrication before a function test. So we just need a drop, and just a drop, a tiny drop on each gear, as so. And then we'll need to go and get a pin put a bit of oil on the tip and use that to apply some oil on the axles near the entrance to the bearing on each side of each axle. There we go. And we need to repeat that for each axle on the motor housing, and wiggle the wheels a bit to allow the oil to penetrate inside the bearing, and then wiggle the wheels and turn them manually in order to distribute the oil a bit. So now we're ready for a function test. There we go, it's going forward and backwards and forward, and it goes up the ramp, and just like at 120, yeah, it's okay. Let's turn it the other direction. Perfect. It's going down a bit faster. Yeah, that's fine. So we can look at putting the body back on now. Again, it's the opposite of the disassembly. Let's put the screw back on. Wipe the bit of grease that I had on my fingers, and now we can test it with a little consist of 6 passenger cars. Right, 150, which is the speed I like. Oh, very nice, it's going up. Lovely. Yes, much better than what it was when I first tested it earlier. Excellent. Let's do another round to be sure. Yeah, that's a good speed by the looks of it. We'll check again with the other locomotive just to make sure and verify that we've got a similar performance. Right, we're going to stop it here. There we go. Let's compare it with the other model of a similar spec. Yeah, it's going the same speed. It's the same performance. Alright, I think we've achieved our goal. Brilliant. Let's watch this one go around the oval another time. And I think because we've achieved similar levels of performance, we're going to have a little play and even try a double header. Right, they're both set up and we're going to send them on their way. There we go. Look at that. Going up the incline with ease. It's not really increasing the speed or anything, but it's nice to look at. Right, we've reached the end of the video. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I'd also like to thank the recent subscribers to the channel. It's very nice to see that people are interested in what I produced, so much so that they subscribe to be notified of new uploads. It's very rewarding and keeps me going. Thank you very much again. But for now, bye and see you next time.